I still remember the sound of the dinner plates clinking as Marissa's voice cut through the room like a knife. "You wouldn't know what it's like to raise a family on your own, Eleanor," she said, her tone dripping with mockery. I froze, the words echoing in my ears. I'd heard Marissa speak her mind before, but this time was different. She'd gone too far. I wasn't just hurt. I was humiliated. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. I had kept a secret for over 40 years, buried deep within me, but now I felt like it was time to unearth it. I wasn't going to take her mockery. "Not this time." Before I tell you what happened next, would you do me a favor? Hit that subscribe button, turn on the little bell, and let me know where you're watching from. It really helps us know where these stories are reaching. You see, Marissa's words sparked something I didn't even know I had inside me. A secret, buried long ago, that could change everything. I knew, right then and there, that revealing the truth would never be the same. Would my family ever look at me the same way again? Would I lose everything in the process? You'll have to stick around to find out. It's a story I never thought I'd tell. I sat there, the room still buzzing with the remnants of Marissa's words, as the weight of the silence wrapped itself around me like a heavy, suffocating blanket. The laughter of my grandchildren, once so comforting, now sounded distant, like a memory I couldn't quite grasp. I wanted to scream, to tell them all the truth. But how could I? How could I rip open this old wound after all these years? I've always been the quiet one in the family, the one who didn't rock the boat, the one who kept her opinions to herself. It wasn't always this way. There was a time when I was bold, outspoken even. But then I met Henry. He was the love of my life, or at least, I thought he was. We married young, and we built a life together, one that was full of promise, or so I thought. That promise began to unravel the day I discovered the truth about his past. I should have walked away then. I should have left, but I didn't. I couldn't. I had 2 little boys to think about. And a life that would have been impossible to rebuild on my own. But as I sat at that dinner table, surrounded by my family, I realized something. I was no longer the woman I used to be. The woman who put others first, who kept the peace. I wasn't even sure who I was anymore. The past had a grip on me so tight, I could barely breathe. And yet, with Marissa's words still ringing in my ears, I knew, if I didn't speak now, I might never get the chance. I dug through the drawer in the kitchen later that night, my hands shaking as I reached for an old, tattered envelope. Inside it was the truth, the ugly truth I had buried so deep. A letter from Henry's old friend, one I had kept hidden all these years. I had forgotten about it, until now. The letter was dated almost 40 years ago, a time when I was still naive, when I didn't know that love could be so easily betrayed. I hadn't wanted to read it again, but tonight, for some reason, I couldn't stop myself. The words on the page stared back at me, words I had refused to face before. Henry had promised me something I had never fully understood. And now, I had to decide whether I would carry this secret to my grave or finally free myself from the burden. As I reread the letter, a wave of emotion washed over me, guilt, fear, shame. What would happen if I revealed the truth? What would I lose? And more importantly, what would I gain? Would telling the truth heal the wounds, or would it tear my family apart for good? It wasn't just about Marissa's mockery anymore. It was about everything I had buried for so long. About the life I had built on a lie. And now, with the letter in my hands, I had to ask myself, could I ever truly move on if I didn't let go of the past? The clock on the kitchen wall ticked steadily, each second passing like a weight pressing harder on my chest. I sat in front of the old oak table, staring at the letter in my hands, my mind swirling. It was like I was back in that time, in that dark place where everything seemed to crumble around me. I could still hear Henry's voice, so calm, so convincing, telling me it would all work out, that we'd be all right. But we weren't. We weren't all right, not by a long shot. That letter. It revealed something I never could have imagined. I had married a man who had secrets of his own, secrets that were far darker than I ever thought possible. The letter came from a lawyer, a man who had known Henry long before I did. It revealed Henry's involvement in something illegal, something I had never suspected. There was no way I could ever have known back then. He hid it so well. The deceit was so smooth, so seamless. And yet, in the end, the truth always has a way of surfacing, doesn't it? I never told anyone. Not even Henry. I couldn't. The idea of shattering the life we had built, of leaving him and the boys to pick up the pieces, seemed impossible. So, I buried it deep. I made a choice to keep it a secret. But secrets have a way of festering, of growing bigger the longer they're ignored. And now, Marissa's cruel comment had opened the floodgates. That small moment, that cruel jab, had brought everything rushing back. I couldn't help but feel a knot tightening in my stomach. My son, Adam, he would never understand. He couldn't. The truth would break him, and the thought of hurting him was unbearable. And Marissa, she would only see it as weakness. She wouldn't care about the years of silence, the emotional toll it took to live with this secret. She wouldn't care about my fears, my regrets. All she'd see was the damage, the wreckage of my choices. And what would that do to our family? To the fragile connections that still held us together? I paced the room, the letter now in a trembling pile on the table. The urge to burn it, to erase it from existence, was almost overwhelming. But I couldn't. The truth needed to come out. It wasn't just for me, it was for my family, for the future I still hoped could be salvaged. Despite everything, there was a knock on the door, breaking my spiral. My heart jumped. It was Adam, standing in the doorway, looking at me with that worried frown I'd seen 1,000 times. "Mom?" His voice was soft, concerned. He always had that look when something was wrong. "You okay?" I nodded, but the truth was, I wasn't. I wasn't okay, not by a long shot. I hadn't been for years. I had spent my whole life trying to keep everything together, trying to shield him from the cracks in our family, but it wasn't enough anymore. The cracks had grown too big. I could see them now, stretching across every memory, every piece of my past. I wasn't sure what I expected from Adam, but I knew one thing: he wasn't going to let me off easy. Not this time. And as I watched him stand there, waiting for me to speak, I realized I had a decision to make. Would I tell him everything? Or would I bury it? Once the evening air outside was thick with the scent of rain, the kind of rain that falls slowly, almost deliberately, as though the sky was taking its time to cry. Inside, the house felt smaller, the walls pressing in on me. I tried to push the feeling away, but it wouldn't leave. It never did. The past had a way of clawing its way to the surface, no matter how much I tried to bury it. And tonight, it was impossible to ignore. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to block out the present, but the memories came rushing back. I was a young woman then, only in my early 20s, so full of hope and dreams. Henry and I had just moved into our first home, a modest little place on the edge of town, and it was all I could have ever wanted. Or so I thought. The first flashback was like a punch to the gut, a day like any other, the sun shining, the birds singing. I had just picked up Adam from school when Henry came rushing through the door, his face pale, his eyes wide with fear. He handed me a letter, a plain, official-looking thing, with a stamp from a law office. The letter's contents sent my heart into a panic. It was a warning. Henry had been involved in something illegal. Something he promised me he'd left behind years ago. But now, it was back, and it was threatening everything. I remember feeling numb, like I was watching it all happen from a distance. How could I be so blind? How could I not see the signs before? The late nights, the strange phone calls, the money he always seemed to have, money he never talked about, money that never seemed to run out. And then, the letter, the proof that everything I thought I knew about him had been a lie. But I stayed. I stayed because of the boys. Because of my family. What could I do? Walk away? Leave them all behind? I couldn't. So, I buried the truth. I made it disappear. I pretended it was nothing, just a bad chapter in a story that didn't matter anymore. The second flashback hit me even harder. A few years later, when I discovered the full extent of what Henry had been involved in. I found a box, hidden in the back of the closet. Inside it were documents, photos, and letters that confirmed everything I feared. My husband had been part of a criminal network, involved in illegal business deals, money laundering, and worse. It made my stomach turn just thinking about it. But I never told anyone. I never spoke of it. I couldn't bear to. Not with my children so young. Not with the life we had built hanging by a thread. I closed my eyes again, the pain of those years still fresh in my mind. All that time I had spent pretending everything was fine. It wasn't fine. It never was. I had spent decades living a lie, protecting the very thing that had destroyed me. And now, Marissa's cruel words, "You wouldn't know what it's like to raise a family on your own, Eleanor," felt like the final straw. They pulled me back into that dark place I had worked so hard to forget. I had built this life on the foundation of secrets, and now those secrets were coming back to haunt me. I knew I had to make a choice. The past was no longer something I could keep buried. It was either going to destroy me, or I was going to take control of it. And as much as I feared the consequences, as much as I dreaded losing my family forever, I knew it was time. The truth would come out. But at what cost? The sound of the front door creaked open, and I heard Adam's voice calling out to me from the hallway. "Mom, you still up?" I wiped my eyes quickly, feeling the weight of the past pressing down harder than ever. But I couldn't hide anymore. I had to face this, once and for all. I hadn't opened that family album in years, not since the boys were little. It sat on the shelf, gathering dust, a relic of the past that I had long since put out of my mind. But that night, as I sat at the kitchen table with the letter still in my hands, I couldn't help myself. I needed something, anything, to remind me of who I used to be, of the person I had been before everything started falling apart. I ran my fingers over the leather cover, worn from years of handling. The gold lettering on the front was faded, almost unreadable. The Thompsons, a family in pictures. The irony of it wasn't lost on me. A family in pictures. A family of lies. If you asked me now. I opened it slowly, the pages creaking as I turned them. There we were, Henry and I, young and hopeful, standing in front of the house we had bought together. Adam was just a toddler in my arms, and I remember how full my heart had been in that moment. We had so much ahead of us, or so I thought. We were happy. Or at least, that's what I had told myself. The next page was a picture of our wedding day. I was in that white dress, a vision of innocence, and Henry, well, Henry looked like a man who had everything he wanted. His eyes were bright, full of excitement, and I remember thinking that nothing could ever tear us apart. But the truth was, something had already begun to tear us apart. The lies had started long before we ever walked down that aisle. I turned the page again, and my fingers froze over a photo of the boys, smiling and playing in the yard. It was one of those rare moments when everything was perfect. And yet, as I looked at their faces, I couldn't shake the guilt that washed over me. How had I allowed them to grow up in a house full of secrets? How had I kept this from them? But as I reached the next page, I found something I hadn't expected. A picture of Henry and me, taken just before Adam's high school graduation. I had forgotten it was even in there. We looked happy, didn't we? But I knew better. I could see it in his eyes. He was hiding something, just like always. The shadows that lingered in the corners of his face were a dead giveaway. I had seen that look many times before, but what caught my attention wasn't just Henry's expression, it was the photograph tucked behind it. A photo I had never seen before. It was old, yellowed with age, and it had clearly been hidden there for a reason. I pulled it out carefully, my hands trembling as I looked at it. It was a picture of Henry, but not with me. It was him, standing with someone else. A woman. A woman I didn't recognize. And in the background, I saw something that made my heart stop, a familiar building. The same building I had seen in the letter. The same place Henry had promised he would never go back to. It was all starting to piece together in a way that terrified me. This wasn't just a memory. This wasn't just a mistake from the past. This was proof. Proof of something I couldn't ignore any longer. I felt my breath catch in my throat as I stared at the picture. The woman in the photo, the one Henry had obviously kept from me all these years. Who was she? And what did this photo mean? Had he been lying to me the entire time we were married? And what did it mean for everything I thought I knew about him, about my family? I felt a rush of anger surge within me. How could he keep something like this from me? How could I have been so blind? Suddenly, there was no more room for silence. The truth was pushing its way to the surface, and I couldn't pretend anymore. I closed the album, my hands shaking. The weight of what I had uncovered in that one photo was more than I could bear. And yet, there was no turning back. The family I thought I knew was unraveling, and I was caught in the middle of it all. I had to tell Adam. I had to tell him everything. But how could I? How could I destroy his world the way mine had been destroyed? Before I could think any longer, I heard Adam's voice again, this time closer, coming from the hallway. Mom? Is everything okay in there? I looked down at the family album in my hands, the weight of the years pressing down on me. I had a choice to make, and I couldn't keep running from it. Not anymore. I had spent so many years trying to shield Adam from the truth. But now, as I stood at the doorway, the weight of everything pressing down on me, I realized it was time to stop hiding. Time to stop pretending that things were fine. Adam deserved to know. The truth deserved to come out, even if it shattered everything we had left. Mom, you all right? Adam's voice was gentle, concerned, but there was an edge of suspicion in it, too. He could sense something was wrong. He always could. I stood there for a moment, just looking at him. He was no longer the little boy I used to tuck into bed at night. He was a man now, strong, independent, but so much like Henry in so many ways. The same eyes, the same jawline. It made my heart ache, but it also terrified me. What if he looked at me the way Henry did, with disappointment? What if, like his father, he saw me as weak, as someone who had failed him? Adam, I started, my voice shaking more than I wanted it to. There's something I need to tell you. Something about your father. Something I should have told you a long time ago. His eyes narrowed, the concern deepening. What do you mean? Mom, you're scaring me. I took a deep breath, clutching the family album to my chest. It's about the life we had before you were born. About what your father was involved in. The things he kept hidden from all of us. Adam stepped into the room, his expression shifting from concern to confusion. What are you talking about? What do you mean? Dad wasn't perfect, but he loved us. He always took care of us. I nodded, biting my lip to hold back the tears that threatened to spill. He did. He loved us. But there was more to him than you knew. A lot more. I opened the album, carefully turning the pages until I reached the photo I had found. The one of Henry with the woman. Adam looked at the picture, his face scrunching up in confusion. Who is this? Why haven't I ever seen this before? I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, but I pushed through. This woman? She was part of his past, Adam. A part of the past he never wanted you to know about. She was someone he was involved with long before we even met. Adam's eyes flicked from the photo to my face, the weight of my words starting to sink in. Wait, are you telling me that Dad? That he was seeing someone else? While you were together? His voice was low, edged with disbelief. I nodded slowly, my stomach twisting. Yes, but that's not all. He was involved in something illegal. Something dangerous. I found out about it not long after we moved into our house. But I stayed. I stayed because I didn't want to destroy our family. I didn't want to break everything apart. Adam took a step back, as though he needed some space to process this. Mom, why didn't you ever tell me? Why keep this from me all these years? I felt a surge of guilt, the years of silence weighing heavily on my chest. I was protecting you, Adam. I didn't want you to know what kind of man your father really was. I didn't want you to grow up with that image of him. You were just a child, and I thought it was better to keep this from you, to keep it buried. He shook his head, his face a mix of anger and confusion. You should have told me. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm an adult. I deserve to know this. I wanted to explain, to tell him how hard it had been for me to keep this secret, but the words wouldn't come. All I could do was stand there, watching him process the pain, the betrayal. And in that moment, I realized that no matter what I said, I couldn't undo the damage. The truth was out, and there was no going back. Adam's voice broke the silence, softer now. I don't know what to think, Mom. This changes everything. I don't know how to look at Dad the same way anymore. I swallowed hard, fighting the tears that threatened to spill. I know, honey. I know. I had spent so many years protecting him from the truth, but now the truth had come to light, and it was tearing everything apart. The weight of it felt unbearable. Do you want me to leave? Adam's voice cracked as he spoke, the pain in his words cutting through me like a knife. I shook my head quickly, stepping toward him. No, Adam. I don't want you to go. But we need to face this. We need to figure out what happens next. Adam took a deep breath, nodding slowly. I just need some time, Mom. I don't know what to say right now. And with that, he walked out of the room, leaving me alone with the truth. I had finally told him, but in doing so, I had opened a door I wasn't sure I could close. What now? Would we ever be able to heal from this? Could we ever move forward? The house felt cold after Adam left. It was as if all the warmth, all the life, had been sucked out of it. I knew I had done the right thing by telling him the truth, but the aftermath, this weight, this distance, was almost unbearable. I had finally said what needed to be said, but now I was left with the consequences. And just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, I heard the front door slam. Marissa, she appeared in the kitchen doorway, her eyes narrowed and her arms crossed. I knew that look too well, the one that told me she was about to say something she'd regret. But she didn't seem like the type to hold back. "You really think telling Adam all that will help?" she asked, her voice thick with sarcasm. "You've ruined everything, Eleanor. You've destroyed the family." I swallowed hard, but I wasn't going to let her guilt trip me. Not this time. I did what I thought was right, Marissa. The truth needed to come out. She snorted, shaking her head. "The truth? You call that the truth? You've been living a lie for so long that now you think one little confession will fix it all." She took a step closer, lowering her voice. "You're delusional if you think Adam is going to forgive you for this. And Henry, well, he's not here anymore to defend himself, but if he were." She let the sentence trail off, her meaning cleared out. I felt my hands trembling at my sides, but I kept my gaze steady. I didn't do this for forgiveness. I did it because it's what needed to happen. Marissa scoffed. "You think you're some martyr, huh? Well, good luck with that, Eleanor. Good luck picking up the pieces. Because I'm telling you right now, this family is never going to be the same. And it's all your fault." Her words stung more than I cared to admit. But there was something in her tone, something beyond the anger, that made me uneasy. It wasn't just her blaming me for everything that had gone wrong. There was something else, something beneath the surface. "I never asked for this," I said, my voice low. "I never wanted any of this." "Oh, don't give me that pity story," she shot back. "You're not the only one who's been hurt here. But you're the one who's causing all the damage now. You think telling Adam is going to fix things? You think he's going to look at you any differently now? No, Eleanor. You've just given him another reason to hate you." That hit me hard. I wasn't sure what was worse, the way she was attacking me, or the doubt creeping in from her words. Could I really fix things with Adam? Could I undo the damage? I didn't have an answer for her. I didn't even know if there was an answer, but Marissa wasn't done. She stepped forward, her eyes now flashing with a cold intensity. "You don't know what's coming, Eleanor. You think revealing these secrets makes you some kind of hero? Maybe you should be careful what you wish for. You never know what else is hiding in the shadows." Her words lingered in the air, cold and ominous. I knew there was something she wasn't telling me. But what? And why did it feel like she was threatening me, even now? I opened my mouth to ask, but before I could, she turned on her heel and walked out of the room, leaving me standing there, more confused than ever. What did she mean? What was she hiding? I glanced back at the album on the table, the picture of Henry and that woman still staring up at me. Marissa knew more than she was letting on. I could feel it. And if she was planning to use my family's secrets against me, then I was in deeper than I realized. As I stared at the photo again, a feeling of dread settled over me. There was something bigger at play here, something darker than I could have ever imagined. Marissa was no longer just my daughter-in-law. She was becoming an adversary. A threat. The question now wasn't just about my family's past. It was about what Marissa would do with it. And how far she was willing to go to make sure I paid for my mistakes. The days that followed Marissa's threat felt like a fog, a heavy haze that I couldn't shake off. The house was quieter, emptier somehow. Adam had been distant, lost in his own thoughts. I understood. How could he not be? Everything had changed, and I was no longer the mother he'd always known. I had torn away the veil that had shielded him from the truth, and in doing so, I had shattered the illusion of family. The dinner table, once a place of laughter and conversation, now felt like a battleground. Adam barely spoke. Marissa kept her distance, and my heart sank as I saw her give me those cold, judgmental glances. I knew she was angry, but I couldn't help but wonder if it was more than just that. Was she hiding something? Something beyond the anger she had already shown? One evening, after dinner, Adam came to me, his face grim. "Mom, I've been thinking a lot about what you said. About Dad, about everything. And I don't know if I can handle this. I don't know how to forgive you for keeping this from me. The words hit me like a slap. He was angry, hurt, and confused, and rightfully so. I had spent years trying to protect him from the ugly truth, and now, I had to face the consequences of my choices. Adam, I started, my voice trembling, I didn't want to hurt you. No, you didn't want to hurt me, but you did, he interrupted, his voice raw. You didn't just hurt me. You hurt all of us. And now, everything feels like a lie. His words cut through me. The weight of what I had done, what I had kept from him, settled heavily on my chest. I wanted to fix it, to take it all back, but I knew I couldn't. The damage was done. And now, I had to live with the consequences. I'm sorry, I whispered, my heart breaking. I never wanted this. But Adam wasn't listening. He stood up, shaking his head. I don't know what to do with this, Mom. I need space to think. I need time. And just like that, he walked away, leaving me alone in the silence. That night, as I sat in the kitchen, staring at the untouched plate of food in front of me, I couldn't help but feel the distance growing between us. It was as if a wall had gone up between me and my son, one I wasn't sure how to break down. The truth had torn us apart, and no matter how much I wished otherwise, I knew there was no easy way to put things back together. I picked up the family album once more, my fingers tracing the photos of happier times. Henry and me, before the lies started to seep in. Adam, so young and innocent, before the weight of the truth had settled on his shoulders. But those days were gone now. The truth had irrevocably changed everything. The next day, as I was cleaning up, I found the letter again, the one from Henry's old friend, the one that had started all of this. I had avoided reading it, hoping the past would stay buried, but now I couldn't avoid it any longer. I had already torn apart my relationship with Adam. What else was left to lose? I opened the letter and read the first few lines again, my hands shaking. There it was, the proof of Henry's involvement, the confirmation of everything I had feared. It wasn't just about the affair with that woman. It was about the choices he made, the things he did that led to the family's ruin, and as the weight of it all settled over me once more, I realized something else. Marissa's words weren't just threats. They were warnings. She knew more than I had realized, and now she was using my secrets against me. She wasn't just angry. She was looking for leverage. What was she planning to do with it? And how far was she willing to go? I stood up, the letter in my hands, and walked to the window, looking out at the darkened street. I had always tried to hold my family together, to keep the pieces from falling apart. But now, I was no longer sure if it was even possible. Marissa had made it clear that she was willing to tear us all apart, and I had no idea how to stop her. The family I had once known, the family I had tried so hard to protect, was slipping away. And with each passing day, it felt like I was losing them more and more. The days after Adam's confrontation felt like a whirlwind, spinning me into confusion, regret, and deep sadness. I spent hours alone in my room, trying to make sense of everything, of my decisions, my lies, and the consequences that followed. I had always prided myself on being a good mother, on protecting my children from the harsh truths of life. But now, it felt as if my entire world was crumbling around me, one painful truth at a time. I had kept secrets from Adam, from everyone I loved, for so long. And now, I couldn't escape them. The weight of it all was unbearable. The love I had once shared with Henry, the family I thought I had built, all seemed like a distant memory, slipping through my fingers. What was left for me now? Adam hadn't returned home since that night. I understood, he needed space, and I couldn't blame him. But the silence between us felt like a void that was growing wider with each passing day. I had to make a choice: stay silent and hope the storm passed, or face the truth and risk losing everything, including my son. I stared at the family album again, my eyes falling on the picture of Henry and me on our wedding day. We looked so young, so hopeful. If only I had known then what I know now. If only I had understood how much the past would come back to haunt me. A knock on the door broke my reverie, and for a moment, I thought it was Adam. I hurried to answer it, my heart racing in anticipation. But when I opened the door, it wasn't Adam. It was Marissa. She stood there, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she broke the silence. You really think you can just tell Adam everything and then everything will be okay? She asked, her voice cold. You think that revealing your little secrets will fix this family? I sighed, feeling the familiar weight of her judgment. I don't know what's going to fix it, Marissa. I'm just trying to do what's right. Her eyes narrowed, and she stepped forward, lowering her voice. You've already broken this family apart, Eleanor. There's no going back from that. You've opened a door that can't be closed. Her words stung, but I refused to back down. I can't live with the lies anymore. I needed to tell him the truth. It wasn't just for me, it was for him too. Marissa took a step back, shaking her head in disbelief. You really think this is about you doing what's right? You're just trying to make yourself feel better, Eleanor. You're not saving anyone. You're destroying everything. I didn't respond. What could I say to that? Maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't saving anyone, but I couldn't keep living with the guilt of my silence. The truth had to come out, no matter the cost. Marissa's eyes softened for a moment, and she sighed. You're right about one thing, though, she said quietly. This family is broken. And there's no fixing it. I looked at her, unsure of what to say. For a brief moment, I saw something else in her, something vulnerable, something raw. But before I could say anything, she turned and walked away, leaving me standing in the doorway, feeling more alone than ever. As I closed the door behind me, I realized something. Marissa was right in some ways. The family I had once known, the one I had worked so hard to keep together, was gone. The pieces had been scattered too far to be put back together again, but that didn't mean I was lost. It didn't mean I had to give up on myself. I had made mistakes, yes, but I could still move forward. I could still find peace, even if it meant accepting that things would never be the same, and maybe that's what I needed to do now, accept that the family I had dreamed of wasn't the one I had. But that didn't mean I couldn't rebuild. Not for Adam. Not for anyone else. But for me, the final decision was mine. And it wasn't about fixing the past. It was about facing the future with strength, with honesty. And with the hope that, in time, I could heal. No matter the cost. It's funny how time works. How it can feel like everything is falling apart one minute. And then, just when you think you can't take any more, it starts to rebuild itself in the most unexpected ways. After everything that happened with Adam, after the confrontation with Marissa, I didn't know what was left for me. I didn't know if there was anything worth salvaging. But as I sit here, in this quiet house, with the sun setting outside and the sounds of the evening creeping in, I realize something. Healing isn't about fixing the broken pieces. It's about learning to live with them. For the first time in a long time, I'm not running from my past. I'm not hiding anymore. And maybe that's the first step in finding peace. I spent the next few days reflecting on everything, on the years of silence, the lies, the choices I made. I didn't rush to fix things. I didn't try to patch up the broken pieces of my family. Instead, I focused on the one thing I could control, myself. I took long walks, I spent time reading, I even started gardening again, something I hadn't done in years. In those small, quiet moments, I began to see things differently. The weight of the past wasn't as heavy anymore. It didn't define me. I had lived through it, and now it was time to move forward. I knew that Adam needed time. And Marissa, well, Marissa would always be a challenge. But I realized that I couldn't control what they did or how they felt. All I could do was take responsibility for my own actions. I had made my peace with the truth, and I had to trust that, in time, Adam would find his own way to heal. One afternoon, after a week of distance, Adam finally came home. He didn't say much, but there was a shift in his demeanor, a softness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. He sat across from me at the kitchen table, just like we used to, but there was something different about him now. He wasn't the same person he had been before. Neither was I. I've been thinking, he started, his voice quiet. I've been really angry with you, Mom. I still am, in a way. But I get it now. You did what you thought was right. It doesn't make it okay, but I understand why you did it. And I'm trying. I'm really trying to forgive you. I felt a lump form in my throat, and I had to swallow before I could speak. I never wanted to hurt you, Adam. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now that I was just keeping you in the dark. And I'm sorry. I'll always be sorry for that. He nodded, looking down at the table for a moment. Then, he met my gaze. I know, Mom. And I know it's not going to be easy, but I think we can get through this. Together. It wasn't an immediate fix, of course. There were still moments of silence between us, moments where the weight of the truth lingered, unspoken. But in that moment, I realized something important. I wasn't alone. Adam wasn't gone. He was still here, and maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild the relationship we had once shared. Marissa, too, eventually reached out. It wasn't a grand gesture. She didn't apologize, not directly. But she came by one afternoon, sat with me on the porch, and for the first time in a long time, we had a real conversation. She didn't agree with what I did, but she didn't push me away either. In that quiet understanding, I felt a shift. Maybe it wasn't forgiveness, but it was something close to it. The family wasn't the same, and I knew it never would be. But it didn't need to be. The truth had been revealed, and while it had caused damage, it had also created an opportunity for healing. I couldn't undo the past, but I could shape the future. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hope for what was to come. As the days passed, I felt lighter. The guilt, the shame, the anger, they all started to fade. Replaced by something more peaceful. Acceptance. And that was all I needed to begin again. I've spent my life protecting my family, trying to hold everything together. But now, I understand that true strength comes from facing the truth, no matter how painful it may be. And as I sit here, reflecting on everything I've lost and everything I've gained, I know one thing for sure: healing isn't about waiting for everything to fall into place. It's about finding peace in the midst of the chaos, and learning to live with the broken pieces, and that, my dear friends, is the beginning of healing.